clean. You can see the little pile of goo. I pushed one little pig through already and got that pile of goo out of that port. It runs through. So we're just trying to clean everything. So we'll get our reverse drum clean, get him back in, and then and maybe him on the front side. I don't know. I'm trying to organize as I go here. So yeah, I slid that reverse drum in because this housing's nice and clean. So I got some of the parts back on that housing just to kind of get me some room, and we got a clean end started. And so now here's our front cover, then the next housing, and we'll just start building back. I'm still waiting on some of these O-rings, so that kind of dictates where I go. I was gonna keep working on that reverse and get all this stuff cleaned up and bolted on, but without the O-rings I can't do anything. So these gaskets, sometimes they're kind of a mystery, and the big thing with them is your perimeter. Sometimes you could go completely berserk trying to guess your passageways and stuff, but so he'll sit there on this housing. Let's make sure we got our sheet metal, our tin in here. He's clean. We did the pump, 20 pounds Loctite torque on them bolts. He's good to go, assembled with grease, and yeah, so I think we're good to go. There isn't anything on this pump, on this housing, other than a pump. So yeah, we'll get this like that. And then this plate, I gotta wipe him down one last time. Wipe him down, then he sets on, and then our front cover set, then the gasket, then front cover. Be careful with these little bolts. They only go to 11 foot-pounds of torque. So that's where I got my little inch-pound wrench. And yeah, so we'll get these run in and torqued up. So we're doing a John Deere planetary. So you see that little less than greater than sign right there, and one right there, and one right there. That one I'm kind of in the light. There you can see it good down here on the bottom. Boom, right there. Then we'll drop our sun gear in, keeping them things in perfect position to each other. If you don't see one immediately, flip it over, roll it around. You gotta look for them timing marks when doing a planetary. So this is the planetary that we were just working on. You can kind of see how it fits behind this housing, and then on the back side was that ring gear and the splash tray. So it's a little bit of rigmarole. For me, I just had both housings standing upright, and then just slide it together, and that went pretty good. A little bit of finagling, going slow and careful, because the ring gear on the backside wants to fall off, and this stuff wants to fall this way, but it can't fall completely out because of the housing. But there we go. So we got our valve body. We're starting to put the pack together, and yeah, yep. So as soon as we get gaskets and O-rings, then we can finish bringing this thing together. The 12.5 is apart. There's really nothing special. The block is a 6-cylinder block. I had zero special tools involved. There's no real tips and tricks. The only thing was that you have oil cooler jets that go in here, and they come out a tube and they go up to the piston. So you want to get them out before you start knocking pistons out. They're a snap cap, which is interesting. John Deere always used machines, so you had a tongue and groove here. But them are them snap You can see the cast, how it's rough and broke. The head, even though it's an overhead cam, really nothing special there. Just like any other valve train, you loosen up your adjusters, back them off all the way. Some of them come loose so you can pull out the little push rod. Let me zoom in a little bit. So you can pull out the little push rod. So you pull out the little push rods, and then you can pull any of the bridges off. Your injector sits in this hole. I'll show you an injector in a second. And you got a fuel pump. Your camshaft sits in this journal here, and you got a fuel pump right there. And so when you pull that fuel pump off, it's driven off the back of the camshaft. So you just make sure you don't lose that little coupler. Any of you with round bale net wrap, you've seen them straps before. So we pulled the cam out while it was still in there, and we used the hoist, got the cam halfway out the head, and then used the hoist and hooked to that strap and used that to carry it away because it's quite heavy. There's your injector. It just sits down in the head there. Nothing crazy or weird. When taking an engine apart, you're always looking for stuff. Like why did it fail or what's going on? Well, on the fuel, the only thing I could find is an O-ring on that injector. Because remember, on this head, there are no injector lines. The fuel is coming through the head, so them O-rings are important. So with an O-ring missing, we had a potential fuel leak. The gear train up front for your cam is like any other engine, except just very heavy. So there's your cam gear. This retainer, it fits O-ring in there, but you can see it, easy to knock out. I needed zero special tools. The only special tool I used was my impact driver. I always use this guy, a little impact driver, 3/8 square. There's a bunch of Allen head screws. You got 4 of them, because here's your oil pump for the engine is right here, and your suction tube is here, and it pulls oil through the gallery of the block. And so there's 4 Allen screws there, and then the plate had some Allen screws. And so these little impact wrenches, whatever you want to call them, impact drivers, they work phenomenal for torques and Allen head screws, because you hold it and you smack it with a hammer and it turns the screw for you. Taking things apart, this is not a normal John Deere. Normally, I have never, ever, ever seen a John Deere piston fall out of a sleeve. Never in my life have I seen that. Dad has never seen that. These, you took the rod cap off, and a couple of them literally just boom, boom, fell right out. But look at that ring. That is not a normal John Deere ring. That ring is shot. There is no tension left on that ring. A good quality John Deere, if we took that 4020 we just got running, or that 4440 we just got running, and you tried to bend the top ring that far, it'd be snapped like a brittle piece of glass before you got that far. So you basically had fencing wire for rings. And I'm really glad we did decide to go forward with this, because when we pulled the head off, everything in the head looked good. It was supposed to have a broken valve, and it didn't. Everything on the head looks pretty good, but we'll still have it inspected. And at a quick glance on the liners, you're like, you know, they don't look that bad. But since the bushings in the head look so terrible, we got looking around on these bearings, and there's some copper exposed on that one. And so you got a lot of ugly main bearings, which is not good. And then there's a blemish on the crankshaft. We're going to have to, that will go to the machine shop, and he's going to let us know. Brand new crank is only just under 10 grand, or right around 10 grand for a brand new crank. So they'll look at it, and they'll magnaflux it, inspect it, and do what they need to do to verify if the crank is good or not. And we'll go from there. going back together, I'll have a lot of video. Just like the transmission coming apart, it's just taking stuff apart. There's not a whole lot to do, blah, 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 blah. Just make note of where things went. When we get the engine back in a month and a half from the machine shop and we start rebuilding this engine, we'll have a lot of videos. So for today, that's all we got to today. Until I get more parts for that to continue on with that. And we'll go from there.